Want to stop juggling spreadsheets, calendars, and a dozen apps just to run your rentals? Logify makes it easy. It's an all-in-one toolkit for hosts. Build a direct booking website, automate guest messaging, and keep all your channels in sync. Running your rental business your way has never been simpler. And for Good Morning Hospitality listeners, you can get 20% off any yearly plan with code GMH20. Just check the link in the show notes to get started today.
Welcome to Good Morning Hospitality, your one-stop shop for the latest news, noteworthy trends, and thought-provoking discussions across the industry. From hotels and short-term rentals to all things travel and hospitality, you'll find each episode equips you with the information you need to start your week. Join us on Good Morning Hospitality every Tuesday, wherever you get your podcasts. Good morning.
Good morning. How's it going, Leo?
I'm very well, my friend. All the better for seeing you on this bright morning. How are you doing?
Yeah, doing really well. Doing really well. It has been a week of rain in Spain, as I think many people have heard. So just want to give a shout out to all of our listeners who might be in Valencia or have family or friends affected by the severe weather that's been going on there. I think everybody's been a little bit shocked. In Barcelona, they put out warnings and everything has been okay. So luckily, nothing has hit me too close to home, but absolutely, yeah, I think it was unexpected. So it's been a a bit of a week of ups and downs of weather here that I think people weren't prepared for.
Yeah, absolutely. We were messaging about it, weren't we, this week? I think it's so terribly sad, and obviously Spain's such a for us, we have a lot of contacts here, don't we, as a community? And Avantio, of course, are based in Valencia, one of the big PMSs. So yeah, thoughts and good wishes are with everybody. I guess it must be pretty headline all over the news in Spain, right, at the moment.
Yeah, it absolutely is. And I mean, I've had people contacting me from from back home and just like, hey, aren't you in Spain? Is everything okay? What's going on? And I think, yeah, mostly just, it's just so unexpected. I think we rarely have those kind of severe weather phenomenons in the same degree in Europe that maybe we do in other parts of the world. So I think, yeah, people were just kind of caught off guard.
Well, look, very, very sad. And again, anyone that's been affected by it who's listening, we're really, really sorry. You're in our thoughts. So yeah, really, really, really sad. Sarah, what else has been going on? I know, because you messaged me about it. You feel like you're getting older. You've thrown a hip out.
I don't know what I did. I was so good this week. I got up on Monday. I went for a run. I did Pilates. I did my boot camp twice. I did my butt class. And I don't know, last night, I just sort of all day, I just felt like I had something out of place. Like my hip needed to be popped back into place. I was doing all kind of, crazy hula hoop movements in the living room last night. None of it worked. And so I still feel like I have as my mom would say, I've got a catch in my get along. So I'm gonna get back on the YouTube after this and see what I can do. But yeah, definitely getting old. It's not nice.
I really got to meet your mum at some point. I've suggested it in the past. We do need to do a mum's episode. I think we really do.
Oh my, yeah. But the only thing is, Leo, they'd steal our jobs. They would absolutely crush it. I think my mom's way funnier than I am. So
yeah, I don't think we'd be allowed in the mum's episode by the end. Just be the two of them talking, wouldn't it? Yeah. No, that sounds very, very painful for you. All I can say is, by the way, Sarah, it doesn't get any easier. It just gets worse. Maybe now you know why all the ladies in butt class are doing it a different way, right? They've all got
that's right,
hips and all that different stuff, right?
I guess I'll fit right in next week. Yeah. So
I've decided it's time for me to do some weightlifting, by the way.
Oh, okay. Good for you. Don't pull anything. Do it. Go slow.
Go slow. Go steady, right? Do it. Be supervised. Make sure you're being supervised by a professional at all times. No, I feel like I do too much cardio, and what it's resulting in is I'm a tall guy, this, and I feel like I'm just getting increasingly more and more stooped as I get older. And I mentioned this to a physio friend, and he was like, "How much cardio do you do?" And I told him, he was like, "That is far too much cardio for someone of your age." And I was like, "Right, back off. Don't mention the age thing." But there you go. So I think it's time to start lifting. So keep me honest, Sarah. Ask me how I'm doing next week. I'm going to start.
I'll keep you honest. That's really good. I hear that all the time, that the thing that you need the older you get really is strength. And people ignore it because cardio is easier. But the more muscle you have and the more muscle mass, then the less prone you are to injuries and things like that. So
And
let's
you
see.
know, muscle mass and muscles are not words you associate with me. So that does slightly worry me.
I give you 6 months, Leo. You're gonna be like the Hulk. It's gonna be great.
Alrighty, so enough of this foolery. So I had my first trick or treat experience recently because it was Halloween, and my daughter's at the age where Halloween's a really exciting holiday. So we did it. We tricked and we treated around our neighborhood, and that was super fun with some friends. We were actually chinning mulled wine from a flask just to make it more enjoyable for us as parents. Kids loved it. I think genuinely she found it really quite spooky, you know, like she did. Like it was all the houses did a really good job and it was fun. It was kind of one of those sort of life affirming moments, right? When you're watching your kids get like really sort of scared, but also enjoying the fact that they're eating more sweets than they're normally allowed to eat over the course of a month in several hours. So, you know, it was a fun family day, I would say.
That's awesome. What were the costumes, Leo? Those are always my favorite.
So I didn't dress up. I didn't dress up. I was just straight from work. So I just, yeah, I know. I was just in
It's
a big.
painting.
But I'm scary looking enough, right? I had our little boy on me as well. Jasmine, he didn't dress up, but then Sadie wanted to go as a princess because even though it's Halloween, she still wants to be a princess. So she was a princess with some like sort of Halloweeny cat ears that she lost. She lost after literally 5 seconds. So then she was just a princess, but she was enjoying collecting sweets. Like you know, she realized she knew what the game was. You know, she knew she'd made very little effort with the outfit, but she was making max and gathering sweets. So I like that. That's kind of me. The older she gets, the more of myself I see. That would have been me as a kid. Like, how do I do the minimum to make sure I can get the most amount of sweets? And she nailed it in that respect.
It's good. Oh, that's awesome. Seems like she's gonna be very successful.
Let's see. Who knows? I got sweets. Miami's coming for me. I'm coming to your. Sarah, it seems I go to your country more than you do. I feel a bit guilty about it. You know.
You do go to my country more than I do. Yeah, I'm going for Thanksgiving, but that's it.
Yeah, nice. Okay,
Once
well,
a year.
we'll focus on that. I think that's when we do the mum episode. We'll go live from the family home for Thanksgiving. But yeah, I'm going to Miami. Very excited about it. That's coming up for Hostchella. So yeah, I'll report back on how that goes next week. And then I would say it feels like there is a lot going on in the vacation rental space and general hospitality world at the moment. So lots to talk about. So we'll go through a few highlights that we've both spotted this week. And then, Sarah, you are going to go on to talk about a scheme that's happening in Copenhagen to encourage tourists to be more green, which we're really excited to talk about. And I'm going to talk about how shoulder season seems to be the season for solo travelers. So, what can we do as hospitality professionals to catch on to that trend? But first, Sarah, tell us about your highlights of the week.
Yeah, sure. So I've got 2 this week. The first is Host and Stay continues their journey to expand their portfolio in the UK. So they have made 2 more acquisitions of Guest Homes and Heartland Property Management. And this is going to add 400 properties to their portfolio. So if we combine this with their prior acquisitions earlier in the quarter, they're looking at over 1,500 properties now in the UK. So they are still well on their way of their journey to becoming the efficient sort of go-to property management firm in the UK. So really, really interesting here. I think this is a trend that we've been seeing. This sort of acquisition strategy for getting new properties. So I'm keen to kind of see, yeah, how it changes the branding, how it changes the name recognition, and see what else they've come up with. I wouldn't be surprised if they have another one
Yeah,
before
I
the
think
end.
that they're
They're
busy.
really out of time.
They're busy, aren't they? And I guess for us, we always like to talk about hyperlocal, right? As much as we can.
Mm,
I think
yeah,
we should get that on a t-shirt, right? Hyperlocal.
hyper local. I
We're
love it.
talking about it, aren't we? But it's so it'd be interesting to see how they that's what I keep thinking with all these acquisitions is like amazing. How do you keep that team on the ground engaged? How do you keep those owners engaged? So yeah, I agree. Very, very interesting one.
Yeah, and then the second one that kind of caught my eye was a domestic abuse survivor program that Airbnb is launching in the UK. They did something similar called Safe Ireland back in 2021. And they are essentially using properties that are not currently reserved, and Airbnb is kind of covering the cost of that accommodation for survivors of domestic abuse when there's nowhere else to go. So when the shelters are full, or when there's no other resources available to them. And so, yeah, for me, this was a really really cool initiative. I was looking around to see kind of who pays for it, how it all works, because you know me, I'm always looking for the looking for the real story behind it. But no, it seems pretty legit. So it seems like Airbnb is actually shelling out the money, so they're not necessarily obliging the host to, um, to forfeit any profits there or anything like that. And the properties are all anonymous and all in undisclosed locations. So there's no tag anywhere to say like, hey, this property is being used as a domestic abuse shelter, obviously, because that would defeat the purpose. So for me, this is really great. And the initiative also includes access to additional resources. So it's not just, hey, here's a place to stay, but it connects the survivors with um, counseling and other support throughout the community and throughout their stay. So yeah, I'm really excited to hear about this and see how it goes in the UK. And they're also adding training for hosts and awareness programs. So yeah, thought it was a really cool initiative.
Yeah, it's amazing, isn't it? Well done, Airbnb, and all those involved. I think so interesting to show the power of good that the industry can be a force for good and a force for change that it can be. I think we should try and get someone on from Airbnb to talk about it in a couple of weeks. So watch it, or if anyone's listening, guys, come and talk to us about it. So it's very very cool. Well done. They've got the size and the scale to do it effectively as well.
Yeah.
So yeah, I really like that one for obvious reasons. This week, I can't get over the perpetual cruise. I just can't get it. Sarah, I've been messaging you about this. I just can't get over the rise of the perpetual cruise. There's an article in The Guardian that first got me onto it. So definitely worth a look, which is it's called the Odyssey. And it set off on a 3.5-year cruise around the world. It was late, by the way, by a few months, but that doesn't matter. I mean, you've
And
got
what's you got for
3.5 years.
years? What's a month?
Are you even late, or are you're just in a different state? You're docked in a different state. I mean, it's just crazy. You buy a home, a cabin, or a home, a suite, and prices range. You've got the lower end, it's $100. Higher end is closer to a $750 or $1 million, depending on the comfort and the size of the cabin. And ownership is guaranteed for a minimum of 15 years, which is 4 trips around the world. I mean, isn't that incredible, right? So it's like a timeshare. It's a timeshare on water. Go on. I know you've got a lot to say.
I do. So I mean, first of all, I have to say, like being on a cruise ship for 3.5 years is my idea of hell.
Same.
I get very seasick, and I don't like being in enclosed spaces, and I don't really like planned like vacation-y things where it's like you have to be back on the boat in 24 hours or 8 hours. That would drive me nuts. But I understand that there are people for whom that is a great option, and that love cruises. So not knocking them, just not for me. I am curious about like, can you share? Like, can you sell a specific portion of the trip? Can you sell an entire year? Like, how does it work? Because if so, like maybe it's not a terrible. I'm thinking about it for an investment strategy. I don't want to go, but I might. I might want to.
What I love about this whole moment is you've just had the thing that piqued my interest has just happened to you, because I had the same thing and I was like, I can't think of anything worse than 3.5 years on a cruise ship, because that sort of holiday energy that you have at first, where you're like, maybe you want to go down to the bar, maybe you want to listen to the entertainer, the local Spanish music, the local mariachi band, depending on where you are in the world at that given moment. Imagine that for 3.5 years. I mean, and that's too much, isn't it? Sometimes you just want to stay in and watch Netflix. But as a dad, that's all I do. But yeah, sorry, pretend I've got a life. Sometimes you want to stay in and watch Netflix. But actually, then you start to look at it. And I went down a YouTube wormhole, and I'm following this couple called Midlife Cruising, and they're on the boat. It's docked in Tenerife at the moment. So shout out to any of our European listeners in Tenerife. Go and look at this boat. And they do these videos, and you go, God, actually, yeah. They talk about the fact that maybe after a few months or a year, they might start like going back to land, go back to their house that they're renting out, and then they get people to come in and take over their space. I think it's very, very cool, because when you read about it more, there's a potential money saving to be had. If you're getting an inexpensive cabin on the cruise ship, and then you're getting someone to pay your rent, or you're renting out on the short term rental market back home. This couple have a house in Nicaragua. That's actually where they reside. It becomes quite viable for people to do it. So yeah, I just think I think it's really cool. It's like fractional ownership of the berths of a cruise ship for a limited period of time. And it might be longer, if the operational life of the ship apparently can go for about 30 years, and then you basically make that cabin your own. And yeah, why wouldn't you be able to sublet it? You would be. Why wouldn't we potentially see some of this inventory coming onto the OTAs in our world? So I think it's a trend that we should all keep an eye on. And even if it isn't ever a trend that we should all keep an eye on, go and watch some of their YouTube videos, because it's just fascinating. What's in the mindset of these people that are on the ship for 3.5 years? Bloody brilliant.
I'm gonna go down the rabbit hole with you after this. I see us going in 50-50 on a cabin, Leo, and putting it just on Airbnb. Let's make money.
I love it, and our partners will love the fact that if we share it, we never have to be there at the same time, so they won't have to put up with us podcasting live from the ship.
There you go. Can you imagine?
Not another podcast, guys. Stop. Yeah, there you go. We've got our plan. I'll go and pitch that to Jasmine right now, Sarah. Great. Okay, cool. So that is a highlight for me. And we were going to keep an eye on this ship. Who knows where it's going next? I guess it's going around South Africa in that way, but we'll see. It's currently in the Canary Islands. Other thing that caught my eye, just because we've talked about it very, very quickly, I won't go into too much detail because we've got our main articles, but Hip Camp has acquired the outdoor stays booking platform Book Outdoors. Principal reason for it here is because it's to meet the demand of campers seeking well-equipped camping locations. So we're back to amenities. That's a trend we're seeing in short-term rentals. Seems to be a trend here, is that people want the hot tubs, they want the the fire pits, they want the social activities, the yoga Wednesday night yogas, all that sort of good stuff. But it's the trend that we've been talking about, which is millennials and Gen Z not wanting to be in the crowd, but potentially beating the crowd, and out in the great outdoors, hiking, walking. Maybe there's a slight trend around wellness versus being in restaurants and eating and drinking. I think that also plays a part. And clearly for us as hospitality people, we know it's an unregulated market, because there's the great thing about the great outdoors is there's a lot of it. So we're going to talk about the environment a bit in your article coming up. I just thought it was worth mentioning as a highlight. So Hip Camp seems to be leading this market and seem to be making the moves. And again, I think it's one we should really look out for, because as the rhetoric will build next summer again around over tourism in these locations across Europe, I think you'll find a lot of people going, where can I go? So I'm not actually adding to that problem. So yeah, again, I think we can expect camping, RV sites, glamping pods to have a really good summer next summer. Probably not a very good winter, given it's probably bloody freezing, but potentially a really good summer. What do you think?
Yeah, I don't know. I mean, I've always said I don't mind sleeping in a tent, but I do want some amenities. When I leave my tent, I want to have like a nice bathroom. I don't want to have, I don't know, go into like the classic camping spot where you go into the bathroom and there's just like, I don't know, mold everywhere and like very rustic. It's a no for me.
I love how people use rustic in a positive way. You've just used it in a negative way. Sarah's never going camping.
Rustic is all marketing. Rustic just means that it is awful and not anywhere you want to be, and nobody has taken care of it in 10 years, and you're calling it rustic. I studied marketing. It's all marketing.
You heard it. Rustic, that's nice.
Like, no, shabby chic. It's just shabby.
All right, the swing and a miss for you, but let's keep watching it.
Let's watch it. It might get me out there. It was what I'm saying. If there are enough amenities, it might get me out there.
Tell me, Sarah, what's your what would be your number one amenity that you'd want to see in a campsite? You're a hot tub person, aren't you? I reckon.
You have pegged me. I am a hot tub person. I used to live outside the city, and I had a hot tub at my house, and I was in that thing every single night. Loved it. Even just for half an hour. It's fabulous. You know what? That would fix my hip. If I didn't have hip problems when I had a hot tub.
Good point. Good point. Let's forget about the fact you were 10 years younger. Okay, tell us about your article, my friend.
Yeah, awesome. So my article this week is about wonderful Copenhagen, which is the tourism board for Copenhagen. And they have launched a new initiative, which is called Copen Pay. And this initiative is meant to reward visitors for green behavior. So it's essentially a currency that they have created, a green currency. And it offers activities to visitors and experiences so they can get access to guided museum tours, kayak rentals, in some cases, a free vegetarian lunch in exchange for different kinds of green actions. So some of the things cited in the article are things like cycling, helping with cleanup programs, or volunteering initiatives. Um, and I've got to put my 2 cents in. Fabulous initiative. My first thought when I read it was like, great, but like, how are you going to track that? It seems like a nightmare to track. So they're starting simple, which I think is a good idea. So they're going to launch a pilot in July for a month. They have more than 20 attractions that are participating. And one of the easiest examples that they gave of how you can kind of prove your green initiatives was when you turn up to attractions by bike, so physically on a bike, and show them the bike, or that you present a train ticket as sort of ideas for green initiatives. Where my head first went was, that's super easy, right? I can turn up on a bike, I can show you a train ticket, and fine. But I don't know if it's gonna be easy to go much beyond that. Like, how do you prove that you did a volunteer session, and what does that get you access to? And I don't I'm skeptical just because I think, just like just like you and just like Sadie, you're gonna wanna people are gonna do the least amount of work for the most amount of benefit, right? Everybody says they wanna be green, they wanna travel sustainably, but, like, are you gonna go volunteer for 2 hours, or are you just gonna, like, show up on a bike? And I think it's probably the latter. So, like, do I think yeah, it's absolutely a great idea. But I'm curious about how they're gonna get it to have more of an impact than sort of the little things. And maybe all they want is just people to take the train and, take a bike, and if so, then I think that's great. But I think the risk there is in not concentrating it on simple things for tourists to do. Um, or maybe you can only access a certain activity for free if you do a volunteer session or whatever it is. But I just think it's gonna be hard to track that. Hard to track it and hard to kinda get the word out and spread the word where people can actually go and sign up. Um, so I think it's all about marketing and how they do it, and also about who else they get in terms of the attractions. Like, if the attractions are good enough, then people will do it. If they're not, mm, I don't know.
I agree with you. It's a marketing initiative, isn't it? And it
Mm,
tells the story of what Copenhagen wants the world to think about Copenhagen. And that I really like, because we
mm,
talk about this in another way, which is over tourism and local areas getting it wrong. So potentially not fixing the problem. So you might demonize STRs, but allow as many cruise ships onto the docks as possible without regulating that, because then you get
mhm,
the day and your housing stock isn't stretched. But what are you doing to the environment? What are you doing to the harbor? What are you? So it's about balance. I'm not saying one's right, one's wrong. I'm just saying it's about balance. And we always say, a policymaker's getting it wrong by focusing on the wrong thing. And here, Copenhagen is clearly sending a message to what it thinks is important. And if it can do that, and it can make more people even travel in by train, job done, right? So I agree with you. I think the motive probably is the transport. How did you get here? And
mhm.
I've often thought that's an interesting conversation. We've had it a few times in different ways, but can you prove that you got the train from London instead of flying? Because that's doable, right? It's not always doable, clearly. So sometimes if you want to go somewhere, you have to fly because of the time and distance. But if it was possible for you to get the train, and then you can get a discount, you can get discounts in the city because you arrived by train. I mean, brilliant, right? That's quite simple to do if you give someone a card that comes alongside the train, right? Which you show when you go to places. I've often thought, I'm really pleased we're talking about this, actually, Sarah, by the way. When you sent this to me on WhatsApp, I was like, brilliant, because I've often said to anyone who will listen, a really cool way to highlight one of the benefits of SDRs, and I'm thinking about the UK because obviously I'm on the Star board as well, is why not just have local currencies for each town, or a local card for each town, and every vacation rental trip comes with £100 on the card. When you get into your accommodation, you have to pay £100 extra in the booking process to get it. That's the standard tax that you pay, and then so instead of your accommodation being 1,500, it's 1,600, but you get your card with 100 on it when you walk through the door, and you have to spend that in local shops. You can't spend that at the big shops. And it's that kind of like, again, it's not the environment, but it's driving behavior, right? It's like, well, how do we get people to spend local and show that there's a benefit to the industry? And so that's kind of where my head went. And you could also take a complete green bend on that, right? Where you could put more money on people's card if they travel sustainably. So I want to know why we're not having more conversations like this as an industry, because all these are quite simple things that you could do in a very low tech way. You could find the most low tech way of doing it, and you go, look, here's a very natural, tangible benefit that comes alongside SDR or comes alongside tourism. So maybe it is more one for the DMOs than it is for the SDR industry. But yeah, I think it's cool. It's really cool.
Let's see if it works. I'm always, I don't like to be a negative Nancy, but I'm a realist as well.
Skeptical.
I'm curious. I'm skeptical. Yes, skeptical. I don't know. Let's see if it works. I mean, I was just thinking, like, if I get a discount for showing up with a train ticket, like, how much is a train ticket? Like €5 or something. I mean, like, what kind of train ticket suffices, and can I get a €5 train ticket to get a 25? I'm always thinking of how to skirt the system, right? And because I think other people probably would
100%.
think that as well.
100%.
Spanish mentality. Always 100%. Looking.
Yeah. Again, I agree with that. But again, I think, it's the PR, it's the marketing behind it that I like. The application, who knows, but it's the PR I like. And I think it also shows that they figure that there's a decent amount of travelers who care about those things too. And that will think about coming to Copenhagen because it's a city that cares about those things, right? Versus going somewhere where you have to use a car to get everywhere, and it's air cons on everywhere, and it's pumping all this stuff out into the environment. So it might just be showing there's a move amongst younger generations, especially, probably to be ethical and sustainable and think about these things. So that's another reason why I think it's exciting that someone's trying it. Less, I think the application will be necessarily successful.
I think the application is going to be difficult, but I think the idea is interesting.
Let's talk solo travelers next. First, let me ask, have you ever traveled? Have you ever been on holiday by yourself?
Yes, I have. I did Argentina for 3 weeks, and I did the Camino de Santiago for 34 days alone.
Sarah, that's hardcore.
Yeah.
That's really hardcore. I think I knew that about the Camino, didn't I? Wow. Okay, cool. I've never been on holiday by myself, so I feel like you should be taking the lead here.
You've never been on holiday by yourself? Leo, drop what you're doing right now. Go talk to Jasmine, and, like, you got to do that. You've got to.
She let me away with that while she's, like, breastfeeding our son and picking up our daughter from nursery. Yeah, I deserve that experience.
No. She gets to go first, and then.
Okay,
absolutely,
so actually,
you have to do it.
Yeah, when I was 20, actually, so, I tell a lie. When I was 20, I did it during. I remember now. I did it during a university break. I actually got the train to France and then went into Europe on my own. So I have done it, but I haven't done it for 20 odd years. It was a long time ago. So maybe I need to do it again. I love this because now the solo traveler is definitely a growing segment. It's being taken more seriously, and people are trying to create marketing and comms around it, and all the different things you can do. And it seems that they have a very useful benefit, which is that shoulder season seems to be the time for solo travelers to go. By the way, shoulder season is brilliant. We also go as a family because our kids aren't in school yet. And I think that clearly the motivation is that if you're traveling on your own, you're not tied into the school holidays. You're not waiting for kids to be, and therefore having to pay peak prices. But also the fact that you're going to save money. The Europe summer, the weather's getting more extreme, which is, again, can we help deseasonalize Europe by saying, well, August is actually really hot now, so why not go into September, October? I know there's one of my friends who's actually away at the moment in Greece, and here we are at the start of November and it's still warm. So this idea to deseasonalize, I really like. And then the idea that if there's fewer tourists around, it's easier to have more authentic experiences. So instead of queuing to take the photo while the sun's setting over the bay in Santorini, you're actually able to speak to the waiter because they've got a bit longer to talk to you, or, interact with the person at the shop, or, go and do go and do an experience, a wine tasting or something of that nature. And it seems it's a trend that we should be thinking about in the SDR world, because hotels are reporting that. I mean, this stat is brilliant, by the way. So like hotel bookings grew 5% above the 2019 level this year. And this increase was primarily driven by individuals traveling alone, who account for 69% of all hotel bookings during this period. Very, very interesting. So I guess my thought is, are we doing enough as an industry to try and attract solo travelers? Like, is there a world where if you've got a 4-bedroom home, you also need to be advertising it separately as a 1-bedroom and just showing the master room and the communal space, and the the kitchen, bathrooms and all that sort of stuff? Or should we be offering more heavily discounted rates in shoulder season to try and win more of those deals, because clearly they're out there? What do you think, Sarah?
Yeah, I mean, I think we're not doing enough as an industry. I'll say that to start with. For sure. Oh, I'm gonna sneeze. Hold on.
Here we go, guys. It's coming. It's gonna come. It's gonna come.
Oh no. No, it already came. It went.
That was a sneeze?
Yeah, I'm very ladylike even when I sneeze, Leo.
I really hope we don't edit that out. That's because the world. I want comments about how that wasn't even a sneeze.
Yeah, no, I mean, it was difficult when I was looking for accommodation. I remember, I mean, on the Camino, it's different, right? Because you just stay in hostels and wherever you can. But when I was planning my solo trip to Argentina, there were definitely areas where it was just like prohibitively expensive. It was like a hotel for a single whether it was one person or two people, was like $750 a night versus a hostel that was like $30. and there was nothing in between. There was nothing in between in terms of price point. There was nothing in between in terms of quality. And so there were times where I ended up staying in a hostel and I just thought, I'm too old for this. Like, why am I in a hostel? And there was other old people in the hostel with me too, because I guess.
Did you put your hip out climbing up onto a bunk bed?
No, I did get the top bunk, which I hate. I have too old. Some like 19-year-old kid below me. I wanted to be like, kid, respect your elders. Get them on the top bunk. No. So absolutely not enough being done. I think mostly in terms of supply, in a lot of places. I think there is a gap between, if you're traveling solo, your overall budget, like everything is more expensive, right? Accommodation in particular is more expensive. And so, I think there's really interesting ways that we can combat that as an industry. Like, for example, I would have been totally fine staying in, as you mentioned, right? Like a 4-bedroom house where maybe there are private rooms with a bathroom and like a common area. I would have much preferred that to like a hostel situation. But there was just no options. So I think in terms of supply, we can definitely cater more to that. And I think we can get creative as well about like, okay, well, if the property is going to be sat empty in shoulder season because it's more for group travel and groups tend to be harder to organize, in particular in shoulder season, like, why not split up your house into bedrooms and list it as private rooms when you are not going to get, tons of larger group bookings. I think that's a really good idea. And then it's an additional revenue stream. Maybe it's a bit more work if you're doing it by bedrooms. I don't know. But yeah, I think we could definitely get creative.
It's a trend. It's a trend that's here, guys. We got to react to it. Okay, Sarah. So I think we're at time, my friend. Let's finish vaguely on time for once. What you got going on this week?
Yeah. Oh, well, I totally forgot to mention they started demo on the flat on Tuesday. So we're like full on in demo. Demo's going to last another week or so. And then they're going to start making it pretty again. So I've had all kinds of calls. I've probably like 4 or 5 calls a day just of like things. And I've got somebody who's, directing the construction work and stuff like that. But yeah, it's moving on. So exciting stuff.
Very, very cool. Okay, great. Well, look, I'm looking forward to seeing the pictures. I'm very excited for you. I'm off to Miami. So anyone who's there, look out for me. I'll be trying to hide from the sun or sort of applying sun cream in the shade religiously, certainly wearing a hat. But yeah, Sarah, I look forward to catching up with you again when I'm back. And to all you at home, if you've enjoyed today's episode, please hit like, share, subscribe in all the usual social places. Until next time, thank you.
Want to stop juggling spreadsheets, calendars, and a dozen apps just to run your rentals? Logify makes it easy. It's an all-in-one toolkit for hosts. Build a direct booking website, automate guest messaging, and keep all your channels in sync. Running your rental business your way has never been simpler. And for Good Morning Hospitality listeners, you can get 20% off any yearly plan with code GMH20. Just check the link in the show notes to get started today.